Hey everybody, Pete from the GenWell Project here. Happy Tuesday. No, it's a special Wednesday. Today we're doing a special connected conversation with a very inspiring person and somebody who I've known for a long time. This gentleman and I used to work together in the beverage alcohol industry, and really looking forward to having this conversation today. As most of you probably know who are tuning in, we are the GenWell Project. The GenWell Project is a human connection movement that is reminding us all about the importance of human connection in our lives, something that none of us were ever educated on. And yet research today now shows us that social connection is one of the most important things that we can do for our happiness, for our health, for our longevity, for empathy and compassion, and creating a world where everybody has an opportunity to live a good life. Connected Conversations is a series of conversations that we launched at the start of COVID-19 in order to connect people with ideas, tips, tools, and people who can help us through these challenging times. And what we often need is just inspiring stories to keep us positive on the things that we're facing as we go through COVID-19. You know, from positive psychologists to recruiters talking about the challenges of being unemployed, to personal coaches, to creative geniuses that are spreading the message of dance and of love and community. You know, every one of us can find a way to be connected, even if it's through helping other people as part of cause. But the important thing is sharing these wonderful stories so that we can all experience the importance of human connection and benefit from the impact that it has on our lives. Today, we're going to be introducing you to a gentleman that I know a lot of people out there know, love, and also find inspiring. And his name is Michael Coss. Michael Coss is a gentleman that I used to work with at Molson many years ago. Michael Coss is an inspiring traumatic brain injury survivor and dedicates his life to helping other traumatic brain injury survivors as a motivational speaker, fundraiser, and supporter. In 2006, Michael suffered a traumatic brain injury from a near-fatal and debilitating car accident. Originally, doctors and medical professionals told Michael his condition was so severe, I'm just going to change the photo here, he would remain at a reduced mental and functional capacity forever, and that chances of recovery were remote. Before his accident, Mike worked at Molson Brewery in Vancouver and brings the same energy and positivity to his battle that he did to the crew that worked with him back at Molson. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to just introduce my good friend, Mr. Michael Coss, and let me just do this without hopefully making any other issues in regards to what's on the screen. There he is there. Hey, Michael Coss.
Good morning, Pete. How are you?
I'm good, brother. Great to see you today. And how's the morning been out there in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia?
Pete, I have not even opened up my blinds of my room yet. I've been out and about in the house, but I have no idea as to what the weather here is in Vancouver, BC today.
I'm going to take a guess, but it's raining. Isn't that the story with Vancouver?
Yes.
Hey, Mike, I really want to say thank you for taking the time to connect with us today. I really do think that your story and you are inspiring, but in the context of connected conversations and everything that the GenWell Project does is about reminding people how important people are, how important our community is when we go through ups and downs in life. And that could be a job loss, divorce, it could be a pandemic, it could be lots of different things. But I think your challenges that you faced after your injury and after your accident are another story. And they're another story for anybody who goes through an illness, anyone who goes through some type of tragic incident. The reality is we need people around us. And I'm really looking forward to delving into your journey and, you know, what role people played and who played those critical roles through your journey, because I think it'll be enlightening for other people. So thank you again for taking the time today. So first up, Mike, the question we always start out with is, how are you doing through COVID-19? And I'll even ask for you, I think, how has COVID-19 changed your day-to-day interactions with the world?
Well, basically, Pete, I've been indoors in our group home now here for the last 8 months, We're not allowed to go out for a cup of coffee, go to the restaurant, go to the bank, go to get our weekly groceries, etc. We have been basically confined to these four walls, ensuring our safety and ensuring that we don't transmit this potential virus around the world.
I think that's a great thing to hear. I think more of us can take those precautions to do it. Tell us a little more about where you live in, Mike.
I'm living in a 24-hour group home facility that caters or helps us do our everyday needs, i.e., washing our clothes, cooking our meals, to washing our bedding, etc. I walk now with a cane after being in a wheelchair for 7 years, and that allows me to gain more confidence as I keep progressing with my rehab.
Well, I think right there we need to stop and have a bit of a celebration. Having both been former Molson employees who like to raise a glass to celebrations, it may not be, it may be a smoothie and not a beer, but here's to you being able to walk and to get out of your wheelchair. And I know before we came on the show, you celebrated a new milestone yesterday with your dad. Can you tell us a little bit about that milestone?
Yes, my dad accompanies me on weekly walks to further help me in my journey of recovery. We walked yesterday for the first time for an hour and 14 minutes without using the use of my cane, which I've relied on basically since the year 2012.
Dude, that is so amazing. And I'll tell you, you walked further yesterday without a cane than I did. So, kudos to you. And you know what? I'm going to bring up a picture of your parents because I know your parents have played a critical role in your recovery. And we're going to jump around here a bit. But, I think we need to start off here because I think, we're going to talk about your journey that you've been on. You and I worked back at Molson many years ago, and I think the thing that we need to remember are all those incredible times, but the people who were there for you along your journey. And I know your parents from day one after your accident were there for you. But Mike, can you tell us? I don't know if you can go back to that day. Tell us a little bit of what the journey was like and where you've been. And I've got a little story that I'm going to start off with from our Molson days. I don't know if you remember this. Actually, I know you do because we talked about it a couple of weeks ago when I first reached out about doing the Connected Conversation. But you won an award. I was the assistant brand manager on Rickard's Red at the time, and you won an award for, I think, top salesman in Vancouver. So went out and obviously got your bars on board to sell more Rickards. And and as I'm up there on the stage, I awarded the prize to Michael Coss because we'd never actually met face to face and I didn't know who you were yet. And you literally came up to me after that presentation and you rode me for the rest of the sales meeting because you were literally trying to take the piss out of me for getting your name wrong in awarding you that award. And you know what? That's the amazing thing about friendship is because you felt comfortable coming up and saying those things to me and taking the piss out of me. The reality is we built a bond that, here we are 15, more years later. And even today, Mike, I feel close and connected to you because of, that one little funny incident that made me realize that you were human and I was human and that we were all, as we always like to say with the Genwell Project, we're in this together. And so that's the starting point for me with our relationship and how we got connected. But I know you had an incredible career at Molson. You were loving everything that was going on. But can you talk about, maybe touch a bit on Molson, the people that were part of your life, and then talk about the incident and a bit of your journey and let us know what happened, Mike?
I would say, Pete, that first of all, my years at Molson helped me to become the person that I am today, to give me the drive, to give me the passion, to give me the continued perseverance to always want to win and be number one. The motto back then, Peter, at Molson was, you want to be number one or you want to be home by 1?
I never heard that one, but I like that.
Pete, that was from our former co-worker at Molson, who was my boss at that time, Rodney Patterson. That was his motto that he used big time. He said, Costco, do you want to be number 1 or do you want to be home by 1?
Ronnie Patterson was always a legend. He always had the lines.
But I must say this, Pete, that the people at Molson were like a family. We succeeded, we had wins and losses together. We acquired pubs, we acquired listings, we sold draft beer, etc. We lost some, but Pete, sorry, I must say this. I can recall my former selling days at Molson when I stole the pub called Jimmy Mac's, which was in Langley, BC, where I live now. So I converted Jimmy Mac from 100% the Bathhouse, which was our main competitor in those days, and he switched his taps to 100% Molson. So what I did for him, Pete, I had him to offer him the chance to drop the puck at center ice of a future upcoming Canucks game. Here we were at the Canucks game in the Molson suite, and they said, now, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to introduce Michael Coss from Molson, Canada, and his customer Jimmy McIntyre to join us at center ice to drop the puck for the opening ceremonies of the game.
That's a pretty special moment, Mike. The opportunity to drop the puck at center ice at a Canucks game. Sorry, it was a Canucks game. I'm just kidding. I'm a Toronto fan.
At least it was not a Leafs game.
Hey, unfortunately, none of us can connect at any games today. But Mike, take us to the accident and tell us, if you can. I don't know how you summarize a 15-year journey, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about the injury you sustained and how the progress has come over the years. And I'll help you along the way, because I certainly know some of the facts along the way. But maybe you can start us off.
May 18, 2006, that fateful day, I was on my way to a work function for Molson called Maxim Golf, which was golf done differently. I was traveling along the Coquihalla Highway, which is in BC here, and I was on my way traveling with my former wife and my 6-month-old twin children to go stay with friends, and I was going to participate in this function designed by Molson. On that fateful day, which I mentioned before, we had a single vehicle roll over. There were no animals or witnesses to the accident, so no one knows if I swerved to avoid an animal or what. The van rolled and rolled several times and came to a stop. You may want to show the picture later, Peter. And then that was the vehicle that I was in back then. So from that point on,
take us from there, Mike. So I know that you spent 6 months in a coma.
Yes.
And I know that the Molson employees and companies stepped up and supported you through that journey. Maybe you can tell us, what are the things about your, I know that you're really passionate about the hyperbaric chamber. Yes. Maybe you can tell us the role you think it played in your recovery.
Pete, as you just mentioned, my accident was May 18, 2006. I then fell into a 6-month coma where doctors told my parents that nothing could be done and to put me in a long-term care home for the balance of my days. My father, who was based in Quebec City back then, decided to relocate to Vancouver, BC the day after my accident to give me and my family all their support. My father also did some research on the internet and discovered that HBOT, or hyperbaric oxygen, would help me awaken from my coma.
Keep going.
My father then undertook daily hyperbaric oxygen treatment. My friends and family members at Molson raised over $30,000 for me to undergo that type of treatment. I went 5 days a week via ambulance on the stretcher, as back then I was not able to sit up, walk, or even talk or eat. So I was on the stretcher. I was carried in by the BC paramedics into the chamber 5 days a week where I did 1 hour sessions. I did a total of 270 treatments. And then,
I got you, brother.
okay.
Take your time. Take your time.
I'm just gathering my thoughts and emotions.
No rush, brother. No rush. Take your time.
And then, Pete, on December 24th, 2006, my eyes opened.
What a great Christmas present.
It was the best Christmas present that I could have given to my family, friends, co-workers, etc., who undertook this type of treatment for me. But Pete, I'll share this with your audience as well. The only thing that I was able to do back then was something like this. I was only able to move the pinky finger on my right hand. So this has been 15 years of long progress, a long journey. But Pete, I continue to this day to have the same drive and passion for my rehab and my continued growth than I did back then, because of all the tremendous support that I've received from family members, friends, co-workers across Canada.
You know, Mike, I think it's such an inspiring story, and we're going to delve into a few of the things that you've accomplished. So you go through that journey. You get through the recovery. I did hear a story. I just read the story from the BC hospital where I think you might have been, I forget the name of the hospital, but it said that you heard somebody's voice. You heard a friend's voice getting off the elevator, and that voice was a bit of the thing that actually got you to finally respond. Who was that? And do you remember the scenario?
I do, Pete, now that you mention that to me now. Before my injury, my accident, I was quite involved in sports, in my work career, in my home care life, etc., home with my spouse and our twins as well. But the person you speak about is a friend
No sweat, buddy.
I used to play team sports with softball, ball hockey, etc. His name was Ken Endo. His name was Ken Endo. And then when I was back then at the hospital, I'm not sure if I was at RCH, which was in Vancouver.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was pushed out to the elevator in my wheelchair, as I was not able to stand up or walk back then. I was pushed by my parents, one or both of them, and then when I heard
when you heard Ken's voice.
Yes.
Buddy, I know we're going to get into more of this, but I just want to stop for a second. You know, we're talking about the 6 months after your accident, and we're talking about Mike Coss not being able to talk, not being able to sit up, not being able to function, in any aspect by himself. And look what we're doing today. And I think it's, such a great compliment to you and so many things that you've accomplished over the course of the last 15 years. And we're going to talk about all of it. But I just want you to stay focused on the fact that, look at you, Mike. Like you and I talked about this before the show, up until a few months ago, obviously to COVID, you and I had email exchanged for many times. I saw you once out in Vancouver after the accident. But the reality is I'd never even thought about reaching out to you virtually, because it just wasn't part of, I would have thought that you and I, if I was going to see you, that I would do it in person, because that's what good friends do. And unfortunately, the opportunity to see you in Vancouver just didn't happen as often as I would have hoped. over the last 15 years. But now we've had, 4 or 5 chats in the last month virtually. And I think it's such an awakening for many of us about how important staying connected with friends is, and the opportunity to use technology to supplement those relationships. Tell me, what role has technology played in you staying connected with people since your recovery, as you're working through this? How important is it for you?
Oh, Pete, okay, I'll just share this with you and your audience as well. In the early stages of my recovery, my parents bought a laptop for me, and with the use of one finger, I was able to type letter by letter, word by word, page by page, to communicate with the outside world, with friends, family members, and then I discovered Facebook after that, and that allowed me to expand my horizons as well and interact with new people like Pete. As we talk about connection, I have lost so many friends, friends, especially co-workers, because of my condition and because of our different focus and priorities. But I have gained new friends as well along my journey of recovery, and that this technology today allows me to interact with them. For example, I had a Zoom call last night with a friend through Facebook, and somebody who's become a very good friend of mine. She lives in Vernon, BC. Her name is Shelley, and she's probably watching us right.
She is. She just texted in a few times. She said, "You're doing great, Mike. Such an inspiration, and especially in these interesting days of COVID-19." And another friend of the show, Pedro de Cahuna, said, "God bless you, Mike. You're doing amazing work out here."
Thank you for those comments. Pete, I'd like to add this. It's because of comments from people like that that I continue to have the same drive, the same pedal to the metal for my rehab to keep more progress in my journey of recovery as well. Because right now, Pete, I would say that I'm about maybe a 6 on 10 in terms of where I want to eventually be. And I continue to make progress to this day. It's not leaps and bounds, it's inch by inch, and it's very small but noticeable progress because I have drive, I have passion, and I have had the tremendous support.
What's amazing about listening to you is that I'm not even sure I'm as energized and enthusiastic as you are, on my normal day, but it's a wake up call to all of us of how blessed and how lucky we all are to be here, to be able to function, to do what we do. But whether you've got challenges or you don't have challenges, you have an opportunity to wake up every day and focus on the positive. And that's what I want to do right now, Mike, is in 2012, you won the Courage to Come Back Award for traumatic brain injury patients. You wrote a book called The Courage to Come Back. And even now, you're attending weekly virtual Toastmasters classes.
Yes.
What is it, Mike? Where is this passion? How is it that you maintain such a positive attitude through all the challenges that you faced? What is it with you, man? Why won't you just, calm down and just, enjoy? What is it? Help me. What's the secret?
Okay, the secret is this, Pete. I have had tremendous support from day one, and I continue to see small progress to this day, and that is the reason why I keep moving forward with my recovery. And last thing, Pete, I'll say this: I have a vision.
You got it, brother. All good, my friend.
I have a vision of me walking hand in hand to the park with each of my children who are who are my driving force, and that is why I am full of the same PNV that it's because of this continued progress, Pete, that I see to this day. Like like they speak in the world of brain injury of reaching a plateau. I have not used that word in the last 15 years because I continue to this day to make small but noticeable gains with my recovery, whether it be my breath support, my speech, my walking, my movement patterns, etc. I'm now working with a neurophysiotherapist once a week. I'm working with two kinesiologists 3 times a week. I'm working with a rehab assistant twice a week. So basically, my schedule is full 6 days a week. And the reason why, Pete, I have that drive.
It's all the vision, Michael, and I think it's so inspiring that you have a goal and you have a mission. And I want to talk about that mission because I think that's such an important thing for people to hear. And I do have a question here that I wrote, so I'm going to bring up the question.
Sure.
Can you? Yeah, I think is that it? No, I think that was it. So, giving back to others, Mike. You know, you have spoken about how important all this progress, and Shelley Louise just tweeted out that no plateau. But you've been focusing on you've got a busier schedule than 99% of society with all the different programs that you're in regards to work on your speech, to work on your mobility, all those things 6 days a week. But you've also found the time to help other people. And, giving back is now part of your life mission. 6 months after you awakened from your coma, you raised over $20,000 for the Rick Hansen Foundation, and from your wheelchair. And now you're fundraising for Movember. And I know that you've done a ton of other fundraising for other charities. Help me understand how a guy who's so busy trying to, get back into the place and meet the vision that he has, how do you find time for other people? Where does that all come from?
Well, Pete, I would have to say that this is because of the tremendous support that I've had from day one. I'm now able to be grateful and to give mine back to others for what has been done for me. So I find the time, Peter, it's a matter of prioritizing your focus and your responsibilities. It's a matter of putting things in the list one by one. Okay, today I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this tomorrow. I'm going, etc., etc. So I have that in mind as well, and that keeps me along my journey or my path of recovery as well.
That's incredible, and I think that's good advice to all of us to, break it down into bite-sized pieces and make sure that you understand what your priorities are and make sure you're knocking them off on a daily or weekly basis to stay in tune with all the different pieces. But so tell me about some of the other fundraising that you've done, and tell me about your Movember campaign that you have going right now, because men's health is certainly a priority in the world. And having somebody like you championing Movember, of course, you've always had a baby face, and therefore you couldn't grow, your hairy stash. But tell me a little more of why you support Movember and why you're raising money for Movember right now.
Well, but Pete, as you can tell, I'm now over the age of 50. I just turned 52 2 months ago or last month. And Pete, when I turned the age of 50, my family physician recommended 2 procedures for me, a colonoscopy and I believe it's called cystoscopy, which is okay. So those 2 tests came back very positive and allowed me to keep progressing along in my journey of rehab as well, because of the awareness that I was given about myself back then. This allows me to want to give back to others through this campaign now called Movember.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that, again, your commitment to helping other people. And as you and I chatted about the other day, I think, understanding that having a purpose in life and having a mission to help other people is not just about helping other people, but what it also does for us. And I know that, as you're going through your journey and you're focused on, your priorities and taking care of your health mentally and physically and staying active, that, knowing that you have a purpose in life and helping other people can be really powerful in keeping that positive attitude that you've always had as well, Mike. So that's truly amazing.
Thank you, Pete.
Hey, through this journey, we're 15 years into this journey. And, the question that I have is really, and we talked about it a week ago, and you wrote me a list, and I've got the list that I can read off at any point. But, the GenWell Project is really about reminding people about the importance of human connection. And certainly, in times of crisis, we need people more than ever, because it's the people that, are part of our community. And even as you've indicated right off the top of the conversation, that it's even people that you didn't know before the accident that have stepped up and stepped in for you. So whether it's your parents, whether it's friends who stepped in, or whether it's now the caregivers who've been with you along the way, tell me the role that people have played, as you've gone through your journey over 15 years. And at any point, if you want me to, Mike, I'm happy to read off the list that you sent me, because I think it's a very powerful read. But I want to just, in general terms, maybe you can tell me the importance people have played in your recovery.
Okay, I'll start from the top of that list. I believe the first people that I wanted to thank and mention in this interview today was my parents, who are number one.
Yeah.
They relocated from Quebec City to Vancouver to give me and my family all their support. There's a picture of my mom and dad and I in my former group home in Langley, BC. And I'll just say this, my father is the reason that I have to undertake at this point. My dad is now approaching the age of 75, but he still has the same purpose. He wakes up every morning like, I'm sure what's on his mind is, how am I going to help my son make more progress each and every day, starting today.
That's amazing, Mike. It's how lucky are you to have such amazing parents who've been there for you, and every parent would do the same when they see their child in crisis.
I'll just share this with you as well. I laugh about this, but this is the way I still told people, my friends and family before. My mom and dad relocated to Vancouver from Quebec City, so I always say they traded in the snow of Quebec City for the rain of BC.
Hey, they might be thanking you now, and at least now they have a hockey team, because back in Quebec City, there's no hockey team to watch anymore. So right. I'm sure they're thanking you in many other ways.
Okay.
Tell me about these guys.
Okay, those are, to your audience out there now, those are my twin children, who I believe were under the age of 10 back then. I think they're around 6 or 8. And now they're 15. I used to look down to my son like this. Look down at it like this because they were small. But now, Pete, between you and I have to look up to my son now, who's the age of 15, like this.
So that's awesome.
So they, as I mentioned before, they are my driving force and my inspiration behind my recovery. They are my purpose. They are my drive. They are my reason to keep making progress along my journey of recovery.
That's awesome. And of course,
I'll just jump in with this.
Yeah.
They were also in the accident back in 2006. They were just 6 months old, and they were in infancies. And you could maybe show a picture of the van again.
I do have that here. There it is.
Okay, they were in infancies in the back seat of the van, because as I mentioned before, my family and I were going to stay with friends in Kelowna, BC.
Yeah, that's That's awesome, and it's amazing that they came out and they were okay, right, Mike?
My son Pete was induced into a 10-day coma and suffered a brain injury as well. But I would say that up to today, now 15 years later, he is pretty well fully recovered from that accident or that injury.
Wow, that's amazing.
So,
I'm glad to hear that. So now tell me, I have a long list of other people that played a
sure,
role.
sure.
Do you want to touch on those people, Mike? Or do you want me to read off? I'll read off each one and maybe you can just give me your perspective after I let you know.
Okay, okay, I will
Okay.
make comments one by one after each of them. So
Yeah.
number one was mom and dad on the top of your list.
Yep. Number two is my family members, friends, and coworkers at Molson Canada who raised funds for me to undergo hyperbaric treatments.
Well, as I mentioned before, Pete, my friends, family members, and co-workers across Canada raised over $30,000 between us and the audience for me to undergo HBOT treatment because, as you know, that type of treatment is not covered by Canada's medical system. So it's a private something they undertook privately. And Pete, I'll mention this as well. My father, who did the initial research for me to undergo those types of treatments, he found every single private clinic and hospital in Canada that had a hyperbaric chamber, and only one Pete would accept me in the state that I was in a coma. Only one said, yes, we can help, we will accept your son.
Well,
So
again,
that was
huge
my
huge kudos to your dad for really championing your health at a time when you weren't able to champion. And again, this is why whether it's our family or friends, our neighbors, our colleagues, having that community of people around us who can stand up for us when we can't do it is so critically important. Here's the list of some others, and I'm going to read them all off, Mike, or at least group them together. Dr. Pack, who's now a family friend, who recommended the hyperbaric treatments that allowed you to wake from the 6-month coma. The first responders of the scene of the accident, policemen, firemen, ambulance, and those who witnessed the accident. That's a bit of a thank you as well as an acknowledgement to the people who played a role. The doctors and nurses at Royal Inland Hospital and Royal Columbian Hospital who attended to your immediate care as well as your family's care. Another shout out to the amazing frontline workers who do the work that they do, the numerous specializations and professionals who've worked with me over the last 15 years and who have enabled me to take my game to another level. I love the fact that you're talking about taking your game to a new level. I think that's incredible. Workplace BC or WorkSafe BC, your children, the people that have made you a better person, and for making me feel no anger or rage, only gratefulness for this situation. And then the mother of your children, who takes all the credit for raising your 2 children while you've been in rehab for the last 15 years. Mike, I think that list is truly amazing. And I really do think it highlights how people come in and out of our lives throughout the course of our lives that help us through the journey. And the journey isn't easy for any of us, whether it's work loss or financial pressure or concerns or health issues. And obviously, in your case, it was a traumatic injury and obviously an accident. But I think that list of people is so powerful to see and to read and to recognize that as you here you are 15 years in and you reflect back, all those people have played such a critical role in getting you to where you are today. Do you want to talk a little bit about any of those groups of people that are in there?
I think, Pete, the important thing to recognize or to point out with our discussion at the moment is not going through the list but one by one and thanking each one for the roles that they have played in my recovery. But I think, I'll say this, Pete, I think this is a wake-up call for each and every one of us in this new world of COVID. Now is the perfect time to reach out to our family members, friends, teammates, co-workers, you name it, and express your gratitude for the role that they.
Buddy, take a break. Don't worry. You're all good, but I can't agree with you more. So when you're ready.
So anyway, just back to my further point, I think now is a perfect time with the world situation to reach out to those people, to thank them for what they mean in their life, whether it be co-workers, friends, teammates. I went through the list beforehand, but now is the perfect time to rekindle, to refresh relationships and let things grow.
Mike, I think you're an inspiration. And as we often say when I talk about the Genwell Project, the people who've probably most embraced the movement are those who've been through a crisis of some shape or form, because they recognize how much we all need each other. And I think the pandemic has been the greatest wake-up call to recognize that none of us are getting through this unscathed, and we're all going through it. We may be experiencing it different, but that we're all having to face some of the realities that maybe some of the things that we were focused on in the past may not have been as important as we might have prioritized them in our lives. Hey, so tell me about, I want you to tell me about this picture.
Pete, that was one day when I was in my formal attire. As you can see, I was awarded with the Courage to Come Back award back in 2012 in the physical rehab category. Prior to that date, or just prior to that amazing evening, I was in a wheelchair for the last 7 years. And that night there, I used my quad cane to walk up to the stage to accept my award. And ever since that one date, which was back in 2000, hang on, I think it was 212.
212, yep.
Okay. After then, Pete, I left my comfort zone behind, which was my comfort zone for 7 years. And that was my wheelchair, which now I just use to go to the shower in the morning, etc. And I used to go use the washroom at 3 in the morning, but basically all day, Pete, I'm using the cane throughout my house and going out into the public, to the bank, restaurant, movie, etc. But not now in these times of COVID, as you know.
Buddy, I think it's such an inspiring story. You've been through the tragedy, you've been through the recovery, you have worked hard, you've been full of piss and vinegar to stay there and keep focusing on it. You're helping other people. You're just continuing to motivate and inspire people. And my friend, I cannot say how inspiring you are for me, and how inspiring I know this story will be for other people. But tell me about this little book that you wrote, and what did it mean to you to be able to share your story and talk and inspire other people to think the same way?
Pete, prior to May 18, 2011, as we touched on before, I enrolled in the program called How to Write a Book in 90 Days that was offered by someone by the name of Bob Burnham. I used my laptop, taking notes, typing letter by letter, word by word, page by page. And the book was published and available on May 18, 2011, exactly 5 years after my accident. I wrote the book, Pete, to inspire others to be the best they could be, to learn from my situation, to learn from my vision, and to move forward as well. I wrote it to provide hope, to provide inspiration. But as you know, I could not write back then. I used my laptop, typing letter by letter, word by word, page by page. And now my book is available in several outlets across Canada and the world.
Mike, that is, again, inspiring. Here you are in recovery. You haven't even got to where you are today, and you started writing and really collecting your thoughts around inspiring other people. And I'm sure, as you accomplished writing that book, that was a big win for you to also put a little wind in your sails and recognize that you were able to accomplish everything that you wanted along the way, and that you continue to be inspired to work hard to get healthier each and every day by doing the work that you're doing. It's honestly it's truly inspiring. I have a couple more questions for you. So I think this one's a big one. So what is it? Is it you're helping other people? Is it the progress you make? Is it seeing your kids? What is it what are the things that give you the greatest joy right now? Is it seeing friends? Is it being able to get reconnected with people? What is it that gives you the greatest joy right now, Mike?
To answer that question, Pete, I would say it's a combination of all the things that you just mentioned. It's friends, it's family members, it's reconnecting with others through Facebook, through email. It's seeing my continued progress as well, as I'm now approaching 15 years in my journey of recovery. It's support that I've had from day one. It's support that I continue to have to this day from the group home that I live in, from my parents, from my mom, my dad, from my driving force, from my children, from the relationship that I have with my former spouse and wife, who now looks after our children in their home environment. I would say, Pete, it's not one thing, it's the numerous things that I've listed over the last part of this conversation.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that all the things that keep you going, that give you the greatest joy, I think, Mike, are people. It's all about the people, because one of the things you said to me in one of our earlier conversations is, if you had the choice to do this all over again, you'd probably still choose to go through the accident. And I want to understand more. Why do you say that now? I've read it in a few of your stories that you've written, or the stories that have been written about you. What do you mean by that?
It's really simple, Pete. It's just because, and this will be easy for you to understand once I've said this as well. It's because I like who I am now. I like me now in my state of recovery, seeing my achievements, seeing my continued progress. I like the new person that I've become as a result of my injury accident 15 years ago. I I enjoyed life back then in my former days with Molson Coors Canada, enjoying my work environment, enjoying my sports activities that I played, football, softball, ice hockey, you name it. I remember now, Pete, that one of the funnest things that I ever did back in my Molson career was when we rented the ice at Rogers Arena, which was called GM Place back then, and we had a fun shinny hockey game. I was the goaltender at one end, and I believe the other goaltender at the other end was someone by the name of Jay here, and we had a fun hockey game with our customers and their coworkers at Molson. And I would say by far, other than the numerous business trips that we had to Toronto, to Montreal, to different parts of BC for sales meetings, etc., I would say by far that sticks out as my biggest positive memory from Molson, and fun times as well. Pete,
Yeah,
I would just like to share one other story with you.
sure.
As you know, I was promoted to field marketing just prior to my accident, my injury. And I remember here we are 15 later, and one of the greatest memories that comes back to me, okay, Pete, as you know, I have twin children, a son and daughter as well. But back then, Pete, we were doing a promotion called Miller Win the Twins, which was to win two Harley Davidson motorcycles. And the approach I like to use with several of my customers back then was I like to do a reverse draw. Like, let's say there was 100 people entered into this draw through the course of buying Miller in the pub during the course of X months. We did the reverse draw, and the last person standing would win the twins, which in this case was two Harley Davidson motorcycles. As you see, Pete, we had the big budgets, we had all the bells and whistles, we had all the mechanisms back then to sell beer within the marketplace. But my story, Pete, is this. I'm trying to get at this point. We had a promotion called Win the Twins, which was offered by Miller, as I mentioned before. Pete, here I was at Jimmy Mac's pub in Langley, BC, which was my favorite pub. And when we introduced the promotion to their customers in their pub, I was on the bike. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to talk to you about the Win the Twins promotion. And then, Pete, I had my former wife walk into the room with her twin children under her arm. She had both our twin children under her arm. So people in the pub thought, they said, holy shit, holy cow, I'm going to win Mike's children.
Yeah, those are funny stories from those days, Mike. You know, all those different promotions that we did. What were you going to say?
I was going to add this as well. Pete, and okay, as a result of me doing these numerous fun promotions, which grew the business in this account for Molson big time, this customer named Jimmy McIntyre, I remember the greatest thing he ever did is he offered me 2 tickets to the gold medal game in Salt Lake City in the year 2000 for me to see the game between Canada and the USA. So this was something, he flew me down there. I watched the game. I had hotel accommodation paid for. So this was his way of giving back to me as a result of growing his business through these various promotions. So Pete, I'm glad we're able to have this conversation because now I realize that my purpose in life is to give back to others through sharing my story, my journey of recovery, of where I am today and what my goals are moving forward.
Buddy, I think that's so inspiring, and I think you always were like that even before your accident. And so let's finish off with this question. And I think this is the question, maybe this is the question that summarizes everything about this conversation. So what's your message to other people that are watching today, that are going to listen to this video, you know, from a guy who had, you know, was living a good life, who had a traumatic brain injury, who's now recovered to the point where he's almost fully functioning again, and you've made so much progress from 6 months in a coma. My friend, you are an inspiration to so many people, and your attitude continues to be incredible. And so what's your big message to people, you know, as we wrap up this conversation and getting reconnected with you? What's your message to people?
The message that I think that I would like to leave with you and your audience is this: coming from somewhere, as you know, from a coma to being able to move my pinky finger. I'll mention this as well. In the early stages of my recovery, I was only able to say one word per breath. Hi. How? See, my breath support has improved over the years, as you can see. But my message, Pete, is around that comment. Anything is possible.
Buddy, that is the greatest way that we could end off a show. Anything is possible. And I think...
Sorry.
Yeah.
When you believe. Anything is possible when you believe.
Mike, you are an inspiration to many, and we will be certainly using that quote, anything is possible when you believe. And you, my friend, continue to inspire people with the work you do to help other people, and also in doing the work that you're doing to improve your health, wellness, mentally, physically, to prepare yourself and be there when you can be the one that is, you know, doing all the things and being part of the lives of your children. My friend, thank you for the conversation. Thank you for inspiring us all. And thank you for reminding us all about the need for human connection in challenging times, because without the people around us to get us through these ups and downs, it'd be a much tougher journey. And so I just want to say thank you. And I know we'll be talking again soon, but take care of yourself, take care of the people around you, and hopefully one day we'll get a chance to raise a glass again and maybe have another brown pop, as they like to say.
Pete, I must say this as well. I must love your mustache so you know for the month of November.
Well, I love growing my mo because it gets men to talk about their health, and that's the important thing. And Mike, you are another example of that by raising the consciousness and being so comfortable in sharing your story. It's great for people to hear it so that we can all have that little reminder that we need to think about our health, and we need to be grateful for what we have when we have it, because we never know what tomorrow can bring. So thank you for sharing your story today, my friend, and I know we'll be talking soon. So have a wonderful day out there on the West Coast. Say hi to everybody for me, and hopefully we'll get a few other Molson folks reaching out and saying hello to you now that they too have awakened to the digital the capability of digital technology, and the fact that they can get a hold of their buddy Mike Coss.
Thank you, Pete, for this time, and I really appreciate you sharing this and doing this for your audience. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Mike.
Have a great day, my friend. Bye for now.
You too, buddy. We'll see you soon. Ciao, man.
Bye.